You think time is like a river, past behind you, future ahead, flowing steadily forward, 1 second per second, always moving in the same direction, and sometimes lying in bed before sleep. You imagine stepping into that river, and swimming upstream, back to yesterday, back to choices you didn't make, back to words you didn't say. Time travel feels possible, because you can remember the past and imagine the future. Your mind moves freely between moments, so why can't your body follow? Why can't we build a machine that carries us backward through time? Let me show you something that might disturb you. Right now as you read this, you're moving through time at exactly 1 second per second. You can't slow it down. You can't speed it up. You can't stop it. You're trapped in this moment, carried forward, whether you like it or not. The present is like a prison cell that moves with you. You can never escape it, never step outside it, never see it from the outside. But here's what most people never realize. You assume time is universal, that everyone experiences now at the same moment, that there's one cosmic clock ticking for everyone everywhere. But that assumption is wrong, dangerously wrong. Step outside on a clear night. Look up at the stars. The light hitting your eyes left those stars years ago, some of it centuries ago. You're not seeing the stars as they are now, you're seeing them as they were. They're past. The star could have exploded yesterday, but you won't know for years. You're looking backward through time, but you can never visit that past. Now imagine you could somehow travel to one of those stars instantly, faster than light. When you arrived, would you find the star as you saw it from Earth, or as it actually is in this moment? The question doesn't make sense because this moment doesn't exist everywhere at once. There is no universal now. Here's the thought experiment that breaks everything. You're standing still. Your friend gets on a train, moving very fast. Who is moving? You say your friend is moving, and you're stationary. Your friend says they're stationary, and you're moving backward. Both views are equally valid. Motion is relative, but something strange happens to time. From your perspective, your friend's clock runs slow. From their perspective, your clock runs slow. Both of you see the other person's time moving slowly. This isn't an illusion. Time literally runs differently for each of you. There is no single timeline, no universal clock. Time itself bends and stretches, depending on how fast you're moving. This creates a paradox that shatters the possibility of time travel. Imagine your friend could travel to yesterday and prevent something from happening. But which yesterday? Their yesterday, or your yesterday? These are different moments, different events. Your timelines have separate. The past they would visit is not the past you remember. But let's push further. Let's imagine time travel were somehow possible. You build a machine. You set the dial to 1 hour ago. You step inside. What happens? You arrive 1 hour in the past. You see yourself 1 hour younger, about to build the time machine. Do you warn yourself? Do you try to stop yourself? But if you stop yourself, then you never build the machine, so you never travel back, so you never stop yourself, so you do build the machine. The loop has no beginning, and no end. This is the grandfather paradox, in its simplest form, but there's something even stranger. The bootstrap paradox. Imagine you travel back in time, and teach a young mathematician a brilliant equation. That mathematician grows up, publishes the equation, and years later, you read it in a textbook. So you travel back and teach it to him. But where did the equation originally come from? You learned it from the textbook. The mathematician learned it from you. The information has no origin. It exists in a closed loop, creating itself from nothing. This isn't just about equations. Imagine you travel back and give your younger self the plans for a time machine. Where did those plans come from? You got them from your future self. but your future self got them from you. The plans exist without being created. Information materializes from nowhere. The universe generates complexity from nothing, violating everything we understand about causation. Every time travel story tries to solve these paradoxes, parallel timelines, predestined loops, self-correcting history, but they're all avoiding the real problem. The problem isn't logical, it's deeper, it's about what time actually is. Here's what time travel stories get wrong. They treat time like space, like you can pack a bag and visit Tuesday the way you visit Paris, but time isn't a place. Time is change. Time is process. Time is the fact that things happen in sequence. One thing leads to another, cause precedes effect. Without this sequence nothing would make sense. Nothing could happen. There would be no story, no motion, no thought, no existence. When you travel through space, you don't destroy the place you left. London still exists when you're in Tokyo. But traveling through time would require making the past exist again, while the present also exists. You would need the same universe, in two different states simultaneously, the same particles arranged, in two different ways at once. This violates something much more fundamental than physics. It violates logic itself. Think about what it means to exist. You exist now. In this moment. Your atoms are arranged in this particular way. Your thoughts are in this particular state. For you to exist in the past, those same atoms would need to be arranged differently. But atoms can't be in two places at once. They can't have two different arrangements simultaneously. The you that exists now cannot also exist then. Now let's explore the mechanics. Science fiction loves wormholes. Tunnels through space-time connecting distant regions, like shortcuts through the fabric of reality itself. Einstein showed these could theoretically exist, bridges between different points in space-time, but here's what the movies don't tell you. To keep a wormhole open, you need exotic matter, matter with negative energy density, matter that pushes space apart instead of pulling it together. We've never found this exotic matter. We don't know if it can exist, and even if it could, the amounts required would be staggering. To create a wormhole large enough for a human, you'd need more negative energy than exists in the observable universe. You'd need to violate conservation of energy on a cosmic scale. The universe simply doesn't have enough resources to build a time machine. But let's imagine you somehow gathered this impossible amount of exotic matter. You built your wormhole. You prepared to step through. What would happen to your consciousness? Your memories exist as patterns in your brain, neural connections formed over decades. If you travel to before those connections were made, what happens to those memories? Do they disappear? Do they conflict with the memories your younger brain is supposed to have? Your consciousness is not separate from your brain. It emerges from the physical structure of neural networks. Those networks are different, at different times in your life. The brain that exists now cannot contain the memories that will form in the future. The brain that existed in the past cannot contain the memories you have now. Traveling through time would require consciousness to exist independently of the physical brain. But consciousness without a brain is like a song without air to carry the sound. It cannot exist. Here's another approach science fiction loves. Maybe you don't travel physically. Maybe you send information backward, messages to the past, warnings about future disasters, stock tips, lottery numbers, but information is physical. Every bit of data requires matter and energy to encode it. A radio wave carrying information has momentum. A written message has mass. Information cannot exist without a physical substrate, and that substrate is subject to the same impossibilities that prevent physical time travel. Even if you could somehow send pure information backward, how would it arrive? Information needs a receiver, someone or something to decode it. But the receiver exists in the past. It doesn't know the future. Encoding methods, It can't interpret the message format. The information would arrive as meaningless noise, indistinguishable from random fluctuations in the environment. But perhaps we're thinking about this wrong. Perhaps time isn't what we think it is. Perhaps the past doesn't disappear. Perhaps all moments exist equally, past, present, future, all laid out like pages in a book. You experience them one by one, but they're all there, all equally real. This is called the block universe, and if it's true, then you already exist at every moment of your life. You're already everywhere when you will be. But this makes time travel even more impossible. If all moments exist equally, then there's no special now to travel from, no privileged moment that counts as the present. You're not moving through time, you're spread out through time. All of your moments exist at once. The version of you reading this exists. The version of you born exists. The version of you dying exists. They're all equally real, equally present. In this view, asking to travel to the past is like asking a book character to visit a previous chapter while remaining in the current chapter. The character exists in all chapters simultaneously. They cannot move between chapters because they are distributed across all chapters. Time travel becomes as meaningless as asking which word in this sentence is traveling to the beginning of the paragraph. Now let's consider quantum mechanics. At the smallest scales, particles don't have definite positions or definite times. They exist in superpositions, multiple states simultaneously. The past of a quantum particle is not a single definite history, but a combination of all possible histories. If you could somehow travel to the quantum past, you wouldn't find a single definite world to visit. You'd find a fuzzy combination of all possible worlds, none of them fully real. The uncertainty principle makes this worse. The more precisely you try to locate a moment in time, the less precisely you can know what's happening in that moment. To travel to a specific instant, you'd need to know exactly when it occurred. But knowing the exact time makes the events of that time completely uncertain. You'd arrive at a precisely defined moment, where nothing definite is happening. Here's what happens when quantum mechanics meets time travel. Every particle in your body is constantly fluctuating between different quantum states. The probability waves that describe these particles are constantly changing. If you traveled to the past, these quantum states would need to rewind to their previous configurations. But quantum mechanics is fundamentally probabilistic. The past states weren't definite. They were only probabilities. You'd be trying to travel to a past that never had a definite form. And here's the strangest part. Quantum mechanics suggests that observation creates reality. The universe exists in superposition until someone observes it. If you travel to an unobserved past, you might not find a definite world to visit. You might find only potential worlds, waiting for observation to collapse them into reality. Your arrival in the past would create the past you're visiting. But this means the past you remember never actually happened until you traveled back to observe it into existence. Now let's consider what would happen if time travel were possible. If you could somehow move backward through time and change something. You prevent an accident. You deliver a warning. You alter the course of history, but you've created a new timeline, a different sequence of events. The timeline you came from still exists in some sense, but you can never return to it. You've created a branch, a parallel history. The past you were trying to fix is untouched. The future you were trying to prevent still happens, in that other timeline. So time travel doesn't solve problems, it multiplies them. Every change creates a new timeline. Every timeline branches into more timelines. Soon you have an infinite maze of parallel histories, all equally real, all equally unreachable. You've solved nothing. You've only created infinite versions of every tragedy you were trying to prevent. But here's the most disturbing realization. If time travel creates parallel timelines, then every possible timeline already exists. Every choice you didn't make has been made in some other timeline. Every word you didn't say has been spoken. Every path you didn't take has been walked. Somewhere in the infinite branching of parallel histories, every possible version of your life is playing out simultaneously. This means your choices don't matter, not in the way you think they do. You choose one path, but all paths are taken. You experience one timeline, but all timelines exist. The version of you that made different choices is just as real as the version reading this. Your life is just one thread in an infinite tapestry of possibilities. And yet, paradoxically, this is exactly why your choices matter completely. This timeline, the one you're experiencing, is the only one accessible to you. The other versions of you cannot communicate across the barriers between timelines. They cannot help each other, cannot warn each other, cannot comfort each other. Each version of you is alone in their own timeline, making choices that matter absolutely within that timeline, even though they don't matter at all in the larger structure of reality. But there's something even more fundamental about why time travel is impossible. It's not just about physics or logic or causation. It's about identity. What makes you you is not just your body or your memories or your thoughts. It's your continuous experience of being yourself, the unbroken chain of moments that connects your past to your present to your future. If you travel to the past, would you still be you? Or would you be a copy of yourself inserted into a different time? The original you follow the path through time from birth to the moment you entered the time machine. The time traveling you would be following a different path, jumping backward then forward again. Are these the same person, or are they two different people who happen to share the same memories up to a certain point? This is not a philosophical curiosity. This is the core of what makes time travel impossible. You cannot be in two places at once in space. You cannot be in two times at once in time. Your identity, your sense of being yourself, depends on following a single continuous path through space-time. Time travel would split that path, and a split person is not a person at all. Here's the final impossibility. Time travel requires you to become something you're not. When you exist now, you are a pattern of matter and an energy configured in a specific way, at a specific time. To exist in the past, you would need to be a different pattern at a different time, but you cannot be two different patterns simultaneously. You cannot be yourself and also be your past self. You cannot exist now and also exist then. This is the final impossibility of time travel. Not that it violates physics, though it does, not that it creates logical paradoxes, though it does, but that it reveals the ultimate isolation of consciousness. You are trapped not just in the present moment, but in the present timeline. You can imagine other possibilities, but you cannot reach them. You can remember other choices, but you cannot change them. You can dream of other futures, but you cannot visit them before they become present. Time travel is impossible, because time is not a dimension you can navigate. Time is the medium through which change happens. Time is the canvas on which existence is painted. You cannot step outside the canvas and still be part of the painting. You cannot leave time and still exist in time. The universe has a built-in protection against time travel, not a law or a force, but something deeper. The very structure of reality prevents the past from being altered, because the past is what creates the present. Change the past and you change what you are now, but what you are now is what gives you the power to change the past. It's not just a paradox, it's a fundamental impossibility built into the architecture of existence. So the next time you imagine traveling to the past, remember this: you are already time traveling forward, 1 second per second, carried by the flow of cause and effect from moment to moment. This is the only time travel possible, and it's the most miraculous journey imaginable, because in this forward movement, in this steady progression from past to future, everything becomes possible. Every thought you will think, every word you will speak, every choice you will make. The future is not a place you can visit. It's a place you create, one moment at a time. And that creation, that constant building of tomorrow, from today is far more extraordinary than any time machine could ever be. You are not trapped in time. You are time. You are the universe experiencing itself sequentially, moment by moment, choice by choice, creating reality as you move forward through it. And that's far more powerful than traveling backward could ever be.